Hello everyone, and welcome to another interesting game from round 8 of the 2013 Candidates Tournament. This time it's a game between two time control junkies, Alexander Grischuk versus Vassily Ivanchuk. Now, Vishwanathan Anand once said that Grischuk probably goes into time trouble on purpose because he can think more clearly under pressure. But as far as Vassily Ivanchuk goes, no one can really tell why this is happening to him. So far in the previous 7 rounds, he was in time trouble every single game, and he already lost 2 of the games on time. So let's see what this game brings to us, and you will see by the time we reach the end of the 2013 Candidates Tournament, you will be very happy you've seen all of these games played by Vassily Ivanchuk, but to understand why, you will have to see all of the games. So let's see it. And we do have a couple of photos before we actually start with the game. Here is Vassily Ivanchuk just relaxing before the game starts. Also a nice photo of Alexander Grischuk before the game, and here is the game after a couple of opening moves. There you can see nothing weird about the photo. Just two very strong players playing chess. So in the first for the first move, Alexander Grischuk decided to play e4, and I don't think Vassily Ivanchuk was very happy to see e4. Why I don't think Vassily Ivanchuk was very happy? Because we actually have a photo of this moment. Here you can see Grischuk played e4, and Ivanchuk is definitely not happy about this. Who knows why this is so? He might have prepared something like for d4 or maybe knight to f3, and he maybe spent a couple of hours for openings, and then he sees e4 on the board, and of course who would be happy? But okay, he opens with c5, the Sicilian defense. We have knight to f3, knight c6, and the d4. C captures, knight to f6, all pretty standard, knight c3, and here we have g6. It's been a long time since we had the accelerated dragon variation. Bishop to e3, bishop to g7, and now bishop to c4. We have queen to a5, castles, and bishop back to b3. d6, and knight to d5. So this is all pretty standard here. It seems like white is offering black this very nice e4 pawn, but of course, nothing in chess, nothing is free. If you grab this, then white will simply eliminate the defender of the e7 pawn. After you capture, then knight captures with check. After you move the king, white has a lot of good options here. The c6 pawn is hanging. The d6 pawn will be hanging after you kick away the knight. So nothing really nice for black here. So after knight to d5, rook to e8, Ivanchuk defends the pawn and prepares to push it. Knight captures on f6, bishop captures, and c3 now. We have knight to e5 and h3. You don't want to play something like f4 immediately, then you allow knight g4, this attacks your dark square bishop. There's really no good place where you can move the dark square bishop, so basically you'd be giving up the bishop pair if you did this. So first h3, if f4 is ever played, then the g4 square is no longer available for the knight. And queen to a6. A more active square for the queen than a5, and from a6 the queen is now guarding both c4 and d3 if this knight ever decides to jump anywhere there. Knight to c2, we have knight to d3, and now queen to f3 by Grischuk. Notice how the bishop on b3 and the queen on f3 are eyeing that f7 pawn. If this bishop ever moves, it will be very unpleasant for black. Such would be the case if you played something like knight captures on b2. If you did something like this, maybe you want to grab a pawn, then you get knight to b4. Now the knight gets an extra move because you play knight b4 by attacking the queen on a6, and after the queen moves, now comes knight to d5, threatening knight captures on f6. And after you move the bishop, now you can move the bishop because the knight is blocking the bishop on b3. But here comes knight to b6. You open up a discovery. Now both queen and the bishop are attacking f7, and also the knight is attacking the rook. So after bishop to e6, bishop captures, pawn captures, now you grab the rook and you are up the exchange. Rook captures, and for the price of this one pawn, you've just lost the exchange. So definitely you don't want to capture this. So Grischuk immediately goes bishop to e6. He counters the bishop on b3. We have bishop to d4, bishop captures, knight captures, and now bishop to c4. You could also capture on b3. After a captures on b3, it's not like, although the queen is attacked, there's nowhere for you to play the queen. It seems like you're losing the knight on d3, but black can actually play knight to e5, and after white moves the queen, then black can simply move his queen, and all is well. And a similar idea happened in the game, but first bishop to c4 by Ivanchuk, rook f to b1, and now knight to e5, queen to e3, and now bishop captures, pawn captures, and now queen to b6. So, like we said, a similar idea. Rook to a3, defending the b3 pawn, so the knight is now able to move. A6, and now rook to d1. Rook a to c8, we have knight to c2. Now Grischuk offers a trade of queens. Queen captures on e3 and knight captures on e3, and knight at e7. Already this is move 24. Ivanchuk is already in serious time trouble. We have f3, king to f8, and king to f2. Rook to c6. Ivanchuk is now preparing to double up rooks on the c file. G4, e6, h4, and king to e7. Rook to a5, rook e to c8. Now Ivanchuk doubles on the c file. King to g3, and now h6. Rook to d2, knight to c5, and rook back to a3. Now Grischuk is forced to guard the b3 pawn with his rook. A5. Now, if rook captures, then knight will be able to capture on b3, and this will win the exchange. So knight to c2, we have rook to a6 and rook to d1. Rook c to a8. Now Ivanchuk doubles, transfers his doubled rooks from the c file to the a file, and he wants to push a4. We have knight to d4. The idea is knight to b5, because now that a5 has been pushed, now the b5 square is available for the white knight, and after the knight comes here, then the d6 pawn will be very weak. So king to d7, knight does come to b5, and now we have e5. This is move 36, and I believe it was at this point, and this is the idea of the title of this video. Here Ivanchuk, before he pressed the clock, he knocked down a couple of Grischuk's pawns, and it's against the rules to hit the clock before all of the pawns and all of the pieces are where they are supposed to be. So it was at this point Ivanchuk had 5 seconds on the clock, and he had to make 3 more moves. And instead of hitting the clock, which wouldn't be according to rules, but everyone else would do it. I mean, you have 5 seconds on the clock, you want to hit the clock, and then you'll fix like the pawns and the pieces. But Ivanchuk, instead of hitting the clock, he fixed all of the pawns where they belong, all of the Grischuk's pawns where they belong, and only then did he hit the clock, but then he did not have enough time to reach time control. But okay, b4, he managed to play a captures on b4, c captures on b4 was played, and now knight to e6. Here, knight captures on d6 was played by Grischuk. This is move 39, and it was in this position that Vassily Ivanchuk lost the game once again in this candidates tournament on time. But even if he didn't, he just lost a pawn here. There's really nothing for you to do. Of course, if you capture here, then that's really not good. Rook captures, and then rook captures on a8. You would be down the exchange. What you have to do after this knight captures on d6, you have to capture on a3, and after captures, move the king. So there are no discoveries. But yeah, you would have to defend this position, being a pawn down. But yeah, it's interesting. This is the 3rd game in this candidates tournament. Vassily Ivanchuk lost on time, and it's a very interesting. I mean, if he didn't proceed the way he did, if there wasn't correct play on his part, he would definitely manage to get move 40, and the game would go on. But it's interesting. What do you think? What would you do in this situation? If you had 5 seconds on the clock, you had to make 3 moves to reach time control, and you knocked over a couple of your opponent's pawns. Would you hit the clock and then fix the pawns, or would you fix the pawns while your time on the clock is ticking and you're losing precious seconds? So yeah, that's the kind of the player Vassily Ivanchuk is, and it's very interesting. Before you had like 2.5 hours to reach time control. Now, I mean, in these days and today, you have only 1.5 hours to reach time control. And one other important thing, there is no increment for the first 40 moves. So here the rules were You have an hour and a half for the first 40 moves, then you have another hour for the next 20 moves, and only after move 60 is there time time increment after every move. So a lot of other tournaments did have time increment in those days, and the candidates tournament did not have it. So maybe Ivanchuk wasn't used to this, but either way, this is the third game in this tournament he lost on time so far. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Ivanchuk definitely didn't, but such is the way of chess. And you will see that when we reach the end of this 2013 candidates tournament, that you will be very glad you saw all of these games by Vassily Ivanchuk. So yeah, I would like to thank Oliver Tatlov and David Hovencian for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon with 2 more games from round 8 of the 2013 candidates tournament. Thank you all, and I will see you soon.